Hey, this is Donald Jenkins, your Master Purpose Development Coach and the CEO of the Purpose Development Institute. And welcome to Crushing Average TV, the only place on YouTube. And you know how I like to do it. I take it a step further. The only place online where you can come and master insight on how to reverse the effects of PDD. Now, you might be asking, why is that important? Because PDD is that unseen enemy that keep people chained to average. That's the reason why we call this the Crushing Average TV. Because we have the insight. We help people master the insight on how to reverse the effects of PDD so that you can crush average. Hey, listen, I am excited that you took some time out of your busy schedule. And before we dive into today's subject, what I want to do is do a little housekeeping. Make sure that you subscribe to this channel. I'm telling you, where else can you go and get this level of insight on the number one liability that attack you in the areas of showing up to be the best version that you can be every day? You know, PDD is there every day. You need resources to help you every day. So there's no other place that you can go and get this kind of insight, to deal with that number one threat that attacks you every day. So that's the reason why you need to subscribe. And then I need to make sure that I hear what you're thinking about the insight that I am getting ready to unpack for you today. Make sure you comment on this video. Don't just watch the video and not comment on it. Make sure that you like it as well. Tell us what you're thinking about, reversing the effects of PDD and the subjects that we are hosting here on Crushing Average TV. So again, let's unpack this very important thought, specifically as if you're a leader. And that is a thought that deals with the reality that we all have to face as leaders. And that is, why is it difficult to get people to match your energy as a leader? Because you know how it is when you're leading, you have a certain energy that you have. Specifically, if you have a vision, you have a certain energy that you bring to the people that you're leading every day. And many times we deal with what they call the 80-20 rule, whereas only 20% of people are doing the majority of the work and the other 80% is going along for the ride. So why is that? I'm going to tell you a thing that we try to tell all of our clients to just provoke their thinking in regards to exploring that subject a little bit further. And that is, you got to know more than just who you're working with. You need to know what you're working with. I'm going to say that again. It's more than just who you're working with. You got to know what you're working with. Specifically, if you're a leader. If you're a leader in any capacity, you need to understand what it is that you're working with. And that's what this video is about. I'm going to take you behind the scenes and show you what you're working with that's preventing people from showing up every day to match the energy that you are pouring into the vision that you have for your organization or whatever capacity that you might be leading them into. So today what we're going to do, we're going to take a behind the scenes look at what we call the personal growth gap. And we're going to unpack that for you today so that you can understand that you're working with this gap that is a liability. Every person that you're leading, even those that's a part of that 20%, you're still working with that personal growth gap that can become a liability if you are not aware of what you are working with. So again, today we're going to look at the personal growth gap. In this portion of the video, I'm going to give you a crash course in the personal growth gap and why people struggle to match the energy of a leader. So make sure that you have a pen and piece of paper to take copious notes, because I promise you it's going to be an eye-opening next few minutes to help you understand what you are working with when it comes to the people that are on your team. So to get people to match the energy of a leader requires personal growth. One of the things that you have to understand is that many leaders lack the skills that are needed to close the personal growth gap within people. The personal growth gap is revealed in what is known in purpose development coaching as the source root analysis. See, one of the things that we work with at the Purpose Development Institute in regards to our coaches is that we work with the source root of our existence and our performance. We call it existence and performance coaching, because there's a lot of things that happen when we deal and we work with people at this level. In other words, we work at this level because it gives us a greater understanding as to what we're working with instead of who we're working with. So here's a working definition of the source root analysis. It's a detailed analysis of the Hebrew letters to identify the codes that lead to new growth potential. And as a leader, you want to be on the cutting edge of being able to help the people that you're working with understand how to hack into new growth potential. So the reason why the source root analysis is important, because all 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet, they reveal certain codes that allow us as leaders to work smart when it comes to helping people match our energy instead of working hard in that particular area. So the letter that we're going to work with today is the fifth letter of the Hebrew alphabet, called the letter Hey. It reveals the personal growth gap that is responsible for poor growth potential. So you have to always take into consideration that regardless of whether you're working with that 20% that's helping you do the things that need to get done to bring the vision to pass, or you're working with the 80%, there's always a risk for poor growth potential simply because of what the letter Hey reveals. Now we're going to analyze and break down each component of the letter Hey. So the top horizontal line, it represents the thoughts, because the thoughts, they are constant. Then we have the right vertical line that symbolizes our speech, because sometimes we talk too much and sometimes we talk very little, and speech has volume. So that's the reason why that line represents our speech. And then we have our actions. And as you can see on the screen, the actions, they are disconnected. In other words, there are many times where it's difficult for people to do what they say that they want to do. In other words, they might have great thoughts, they might be saying great things, but that doesn't necessarily mean that their actions are going to be great, simply because the gap is the liability. So what you're working with a group of people that they have a liability. Now, we all have this liability. It's just the fact that some people are better in closing that gap than others. So as a leader, you want to make sure that you are on top of your game. You're on the cutting edge of closing that gap. And that's the reason why purpose development coaching is so important, beyond traditional coaching, is because we give you the insight, the skill set on how to be on the cutting edge of closing the personal growth gap. And as you can see, the gap is also where PDD isolate the actions of people from the strength that comes from purpose, so they can lag in their growth potential. And that's the last thing that you want on your team. You don't want to have a team where 80% of the people on your team are lagging in their growth potential, because it put even more demand on you as a leader and the other 20% that might be fully engaged in matching your energy. So you want to make sure that, number one, you're able to understand what does it mean to reverse the effects of PDD, so that now you can make sure that you can bring every person on your team up to a place where no one is lagging in their growth potential. So again, this is putting you on the cutting edge of closing that personal growth gap. That's the reason why we created the Purpose Development Coaching Program, because we knew that there was a deficiency in the way that we help people maximize their growth potential. So speakers motivate to close the gap. Preachers preach to close the gap. Coaches offer accountability to close the gap. Organizations provide training to close the gap. So there are all kind of things that we do to close the gap. But at the end of the day, if we don't have the skill set, of how to, number one, reverse the effects of PDD, so that now people can leverage the strength that comes from purpose, then it's going to be difficult to close that gap. So what we created is a more efficient way. I'm sure that you have achieved some things with the people that you are working with. So I want to make sure that, we give you credit. We celebrate you for being the leader that you are. But there's always a more efficient way, in order to help people close that gap. And what we discovered in our research model, when we conducted research at the doctoral level, we discovered 4 checkpoints that give us the blueprint, for closing that gap efficiently. And that blueprint applies to every person that you are working with. So our research model reveals that the most efficient way of closing the gap is to help people develop a stronger command for their growth potential. When you can transfer the skill set of helping people develop a stronger command for closing that gap or exercising their growth potential, then you're going to put more people, give them the advantage of being able to match the energy that you are bringing to your role as well. Because Doing it this way, using the PDI SMART model or integrating the PDI SMART model into your leadership practices allows you to work smart and not hard. And that's the reason why those 4 checkpoints are extremely important. So as you can see, the PDI SMART model is the model that we use to close that gap. So when people develop a stronger command for their growth potential, here's what happens. There's a magic that happens. They're able to sustain purpose over time to match your energy. So what we want to make sure that you have a understanding about is that every person on your team, they have the ability to build capacity for sustaining purpose over time. But without the PDI SMART model, it's going to be difficult to be able to leverage that capacity to cause people to match your energy. Hey, listen, wasn't that powerful? I'm telling you, the first time that I learned about that gap, it set me free as a leader because, again, I started shifting the way I thought when it came to leading the people. I stopped looking at who I was working with and I started looking at what I was working with. And the more I looked at what I was working with, the more I was able to help more people match my energy when it comes to growing the Purpose Development Institute. And that's where you want to be as a leader. So what you need to do now, you need to start your purpose development coaching journey. Every person need a purpose development coach. Now, I didn't say, a life coach or all these other coaches, John Maxwell coaching and all this other stuff that we see out there. Those are great resources, but those resources come way short when it comes to closing that gap. Our coaches are designed specifically, they're skilled to close down that gap because we teach them how to build those parameters, to help individuals, understand what it is that they are responsible for when it comes to reversing the effects of PDD. That's the secret sauce of purpose development. And that's the reason why you need to start your purpose development coaching journey, whether you want to become a coach or you want to be coached in that particular area. Because here's the deal. The reason why you need to start that journey, because we're going to put you on the fast track to work smart and not hard. There's several ways to get things done, but there's what we call a more efficient way to get things done. And when you incorporate the PDI SMART model, it allows you to work smart and not hard. So you might be a great leader right now, but let's help you become a greater leader because there's always room for growth. If you think that you have obtained and reached the top, then you're fooling yourself because I have put well over 20,000 hours in understanding purpose development, and I hadn't even begun to scratch the surface yet. So there's always other opportunities, for us to grow in this particular area. So if you're a leader, you want to make sure that you start that journey so that now you can begin to develop the skill set and transfer the skill set on how to get more people around you to match your energy. So again, this is Donald Jenkins, your Master Purpose Development Coach, and I look forward to helping you take whatever smarts that you have and becoming PDI Smart. God bless you.